The history of Ecuador begins with the ancient indigenous cultures that inhabited the region long before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. Over the centuries, Ecuador has been shaped by a series of political, social, and economic changes that have left their mark on the country. Pre-Columbian era. The territory of modern-day Ecuador was home to a number of indigenous cultures, including the Quitu, the Canari, the Caras, and the Incas. The Quitu were the first to settle in the area, around 2000 BCE, and established the city of Quito. The Canari, a tribe from the south, lived in the highlands and were skilled farmers and artisans. The Caras, from the north, were skilled warriors and traders, and the Incas conquered the area in the late 15th century. Colonial era. The Spanish arrived in Ecuador in 1532, led by Francisco Pizarro. They encountered resistance from the Incas and the indigenous tribes, but ultimately were able to conquer the region. In 1563, the Spanish established the Audiencia of Quito, which encompassed what is now Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela. Ecuador remained a Spanish colony for over 300 years, with a small ruling class of Spanish descent and a large population of indigenous people. Independence and early republic. The movement for independence began in Ecuador in the early 19th century, inspired by the revolutionary ideas of Simón Bolívar and other leaders in South America. Ecuador gained independence from Spain on May 24, 1822, as part of the newly formed Gran Colombia. However, political and economic instability led to the dissolution of Gran Colombia in 1830, and Ecuador became an independent republic. Over the next century, Ecuador experienced a series of political upheavals, including the rise and fall of several dictators, and struggled with economic issues related to the export of raw materials such as cocoa and bananas. In 1941, Ecuador fought a brief border war with Peru over disputed territory, resulting in the loss of a significant portion of its Amazonian territory. Late 20th century. In the 1960s, a series of populist governments attempted to address social and economic inequality through land reforms and other measures, but these efforts were largely unsuccessful. In the 1970s and 1980s, Ecuador experienced a period of military rule and political instability, with frequent changes in government and widespread corruption. In the 1990s, Ecuador transitioned to a democratic government and implemented a number of economic reforms, including the adoption of the US dollar as its official currency. However, the country continued to struggle with poverty, inequality, and political instability. 21st century. In the early 2000s, Ecuador saw the rise of a new political movement led by Rafael Correa, a leftist economist who was elected president in 2007. Correa implemented a series of reforms aimed at reducing poverty and inequality, including increased social spending, the nationalization of some industries, and the establishment of a new constitution. In recent years, Ecuador has faced challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic, economic recession, and political instability. In 2021, Guillermo Lasso was elected president, succeeding Lenin Moreno, who had served since 2017. Lasso has promised to address the country's economic challenges and work to promote democracy and human rights. Hello. How are you? Edit this text, or upload a file. Click play, and I will read it out loud for you.